It was a quiet night in December. The kids were asleep, the house was calm, but something terrible was happening behind one closed door. By the next day, Lindsay Quay was gone. No calls, no notes, just silence, and a strange story from the man who lived with her. At first, no one knew what to think, but as time passed, the truth started to slip through the cracks. What really happened that night in Southport? And why did her partner seem more focused on the cameras than finding her? This is the story of a woman who tried to escape, and a man who fooled almost everyone until he didn't. If you're a fan of true crime and criminal investigations, you won't want to miss our new book, The Ultimate Book of Serial Killers, 180 Files of the World's Most Notorious Murderers, now available on Amazon. You can also purchase the PDF version directly from our website for instant download. You'll find the link in the video description and in a pinned comment. Now, let's dive into today's case. Lindsay Wilson was born on May 22, 1977, in the seaside town of Southport near Liverpool. One of 6 children in a warm and united household, Lindsay thrived in the nurturing environment created by her parents, Peter and Linda. Her bond with her siblings was strong, but none more so than with her brother Peter, just a year older, who shared her laughter, secrets, and closest friends. Lindsay was the kind of person others gravitated toward, full of energy, compassion, and joy. Her life took a turn in 1995. At just 17, already carrying a child from a past relationship, she met 20-year-old Mitchell Quay. The introduction came through her brother, who worked with Mitchell at a local casino. What began as a promising connection turned quickly into a whirlwind romance. Within a week, they were engaged. Weeks later, they were married. But not everyone celebrated. Mitchell's family was nearly absent at the ceremony. Only his brother Elliot attended. On that very day, Lindsay's father witnessed the couple's first argument. A bad omen, though no one knew how bad things would become. Mitchell Quay had grown up in Essex and moved to Southport as a teen, following the devastating death of his mother. With a father often away for work and a younger brother to care for, Mitchell was forced to grow up fast and alone. That pain hardened into something darker. The early days of marriage revealed the truth. Mitchell's charm faded, replaced by a harsh and rigid nature. He became possessive and volatile. Everything had to go his way. Lindsay, who had hoped for stability, now found herself trapped. Not long after their wedding, Lindsay became pregnant. But the instability surrounding her, the emotional whiplash, the growing fear, forced her into a heartbreaking decision: to end the pregnancy. It was a choice Mitchell never forgave. He exploded. The aftermath looked like the scene of a riot. Windows smashed, doors destroyed, blood smeared across broken furniture. Mitchell had injured himself in a fit of rage, leaving a trail of destruction behind. It wouldn't be the last time. Mitchell started disappearing for days, abandoning Lindsay and her child while he chased affairs and wild nights. When he returned, it was with roses and apologies. The cycle of abuse tightened. Lindsay, desperate to believe in the man she had once loved, gave him chance after chance. but each time she lost a piece of herself. Mitchell's control grew more insidious. He began cutting her off from everyone she loved, her friends, her siblings, even the father who had always been her protector. Bit by bit, he made himself the only voice in her world. Lindsay's world had become dangerously isolated, every path to freedom blocked by the man who claimed to love her. Visitors were rare, and when they came, they left shaken. One of Lindsay's sisters recalled the eerie tension during a visit. The cold, hostile stare from Mitchell made it unmistakable. She wasn't welcome. As she left, Lindsay slipped her a note, a message written in fear, a plea for help. Lindsay tried to break free. She turned to a local support center for single mothers and was given housing. For a brief moment, she had space to breathe. But Mitchell found her. He came with apologies, promises, and tears. The cycle began again. This time, she returned home. And soon after, she was pregnant again. Convinced this new beginning might bring peace, Lindsay carried the pregnancy with quiet resolve. She may have believed that the baby would change Mitchell, or worse, that she was somehow to blame for his violent outbursts. Victims of abuse often bear a misplaced guilt, believing their actions provoke the pain they endure. But nothing changed. By December 1998, just days before Christmas, Mitchell visited Lindsay's parents to collect gifts for the children. He said Lindsay was busy with holiday preparations and casually dropped hints about her supposed infidelity. The family felt uneasy, but not alarmed. Her absence, sadly, had become familiar. As the holidays passed with no word from Lindsay, her family's concern deepened. In early February 1999, a social worker unable to reach her raised the alarm. Given Lindsay's history of domestic abuse, the police acted quickly. Mitchell told them she had left just before Christmas, packed her bags, walked out, and never came back. He said she was an adult making her own decisions. But something about his story didn't sit right. Lindsay's family and investigators doubted every word. Then came a disturbing discovery. Mitchell had been cashing Lindsay's welfare checks long after she vanished. He was arrested and charged with fraud, and while he dismissed the crime as nothing more than a technicality, his words chilled those who heard them. "I wouldn't even piss on her if she were on fire, after what she did to me and the kids." As months passed, suspicion around Mitchell only grew. He showed no signs of worry, no trace of grief. He gave interviews, played the part of a wronged and abandoned man. But behind the scenes, investigators saw through the act. They believed Lindsay never left that house alive. But they had no body, no confession, no smoking gun. The question remained: where was Lindsay Kwai? While Lindsay's loved ones searched with desperation, Mitchell continued to enjoy the spotlight. With cameras rolling and reporters watching, he stepped into the public eye, not as a grieving partner, but as a man who relished the attention. At official police press conferences, he played the concerned husband, urging Lindsay to come home. Yet behind the scenes, his behavior suggested something far darker. He accepted television interviews with ease, shifting the focus away from Lindsay's fate and onto his own supposed hardships. He portrayed himself as a man unfairly branded, a victim of suspicion, not tragedy. One journalist would later recall a chilling moment. As the crew prepared for an interview, Mitchell, wearing glasses he didn't usually need, turned to the camera and asked with a smirk, "Do I look like a psychopath?" Then added, "No one really knows what one looks like, right?" The glasses, investigators concluded, were just another layer of his performance, worn not to see, but to manipulate how he was seen. Mitchell wasn't just posturing, he actively attempted to sway the investigation. He told authorities he'd seen Lindsay around town, walking near the shops, riding in a black Mercedes. He insisted she was right there, close enough to speak, close enough to recognize. But no one else ever saw her. His accounts were uncorroborated and inconsistent. At one point, he claimed she had fled to Spain with another man, a theory quickly dismissed when it was revealed Lindsay didn't even have a passport. Still, Mitchell seemed energized by the chase. To police, he became a taunting presence, constantly questioning their work. He criticized their efforts, mocked their searches, and once even sent a gift to the lead investigator, a box of hair dye. The card read, "Happy holidays. I'll cover your gray hair and add confidence." It was arrogance at its most sinister, a move designed to belittle and provoke. Publicly, Mitchell admitted to having affairs during Lindsay's disappearance. One of the women, he claimed, was drawn to the mystery, aroused by the ambiguity surrounding whether or not he had killed his wife. The remark stunned audiences and investigators alike. It revealed not only his disturbing view of the case, but a shocking indifference to the emotional weight of Lindsay's vanishing. Despite extensive forensic efforts, the home he had once shared with Lindsay yielded no definitive evidence. Investigators did uncover large purchases of cleaning supplies, an ominous detail, but with no body and no proof of foul play, the case stalled. While Mitchell played games with the media and law enforcement, Lindsay's family endured the unbearable silence. Her father, Peter, led his own relentless search. He put up flyers across neighborhoods, not only to ask for help, but to confront Mitchell with Lindsay's face day after day. He searched canals, ditches, even muddy woodlands, clinging to hope yet burdened by a growing certainty. Peter had long suspected Mitchell was responsible, but with no body, no confession, and no closure, all he had was grief and questions. Each week, Peter stood at the threshold of a nightmare, picking up his grandchildren from the man he believed had murdered his daughter. He kept his voice calm, his expression neutral, but behind his quiet restraint simmered a fury he could barely contain. For Lindsay, for her children, for the truth that still felt just out of reach. Meanwhile, the case caught the attention of journalist and filmmaker Chris Malone. After spotting Mitchell on a local news segment in October 1999, Chris was intrigued. Here was a man at the center of a murder investigation, still free, still smiling. He traveled to Southport and knocked on Mitchell's door, proposing to document his side of the story. Without hesitation, Mitchell agreed. Over the next several months, Chris and his crew recorded intimate glimpses into Mitchell's world. The result was deeply unsettling, an arrogant, self-absorbed man who treated the camera like a mirror. Lindsay's family and the police offered a stark contrast, voices filled with sorrow, disbelief, and resolve. As time passed, cracks began to show. Under pressure from relentless investigators and public scrutiny, Mitchell's mask began to slip. During one shoot, he snapped, "I don't want to do this anymore, Chris. I told you why. You're putting me in a bad light. Turn it off." Then, a turning point. On June 9th to 18th, months after Lindsay vanished, police formally declared her dead. That same day, they arrested Mitchell for her murder. He refused to answer questions, repeating only two words: "No comment." The case was perilously thin. No body, no crime scene, just fragments of circumstantial evidence and a long trail of disturbing behavior. But then came the shock. After just one night in custody, Mitchell confessed. He admitted to killing Lindsay on December 15, 1998. Investigators believe that earlier that day, Lindsay had told him she was filing for divorce. That evening, he strangled her in their bedroom, just steps away from where their two young children were sleeping. Over the next 48 hours, Mitchell carried out an unthinkable act. In the attic of their family home, he dismembered Lindsay's body. He did not act alone. His brother, Elliot, who had once worked in a butcher shop, was brought in to help. Police believe Elliot's experience aided in reducing trace evidence and limiting mistakes. Forensic experts later analyzed the details of the crime. To them, Mitchell's actions revealed more than a desperate cover-up. The methodical dismemberment, the decapitation, these weren't just for concealment. They were acts of control. Psychologists suggest that for someone like Mitchell, the mutilation wasn't just practical, it was personal. It was about dominance, humiliation, power. But no matter how careful he was, the truth eventually caught up with him. And when it did, it revealed a man not only capable of unimaginable cruelty, but someone who believed he could orchestrate every detail and get away with it. Elliot Quay had never been known for his independence. Investigators described him as someone with limited cognitive ability, likely in need of specialized care. His entire world revolved around one person, his older brother, Mitchell. And it was Mitchell's influence that pulled him into something unimaginably dark. After confessing to the murder, Mitchell led investigators to the places where he had hidden Lindsay's remains. What they found was grim. Her torso, wrapped in a black plastic bag, was buried in a shallow grave near Southport Pleasureland, an amusement park that once brought joy to families now stained by horror. Her legs were found days later, hidden in thick bushes near a railway line, just a short walk from the family home. But her head and one of her arms were never recovered. One detail chilled investigators. Mitchell likely disposed of Lindsay's remains while walking with his children. The calculated nature of these acts, using casual strolls as a cover, was both disturbing and cunning. He knew exactly how to stay under the radar. In January 2001, the case went to trial at Liverpool Crown Court. But before the trial could begin, Mitchell tried to rewrite his confession. He now claimed he hadn't killed Lindsay at all, only dismembered and disposed of her body. The story was so unbelievable that even his own legal team advised him to abandon it. Eventually, Mitchell admitted guilt on all charges. The court found him guilty not just of murder, but also of manipulating the investigation and deceiving law enforcement. He was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 17 years. Elliot received 7 years, a sentence many in Lindsay's family found far too lenient. The outcome brought some relief, but no peace. Tragically, just 3 months after sentencing, the family suffered another devastating loss. Lindsay's brother, Peter, was found dead in the attic of their childhood home. He had taken his own life, no note left behind. But those closest to him understood why. Peter had never forgiven himself for introducing Lindsay to Mitchell. In the months following her death, he sank into a deep depression, isolating himself and spiraling into guilt. He often said his life had no meaning without his sister. His father, the man who had carried the weight of Lindsay's loss, was the one to discover Peter's body. At the time, Peter's fiancée was pregnant. Now another child would grow up without knowing one of their parents, all because of the violent ripples caused by one man. Lindsay's father later declared that Peter's death was yet another consequence of Mitchell's crime. In 2017, Mitchell became eligible to apply for parole. Lindsay's daughter, Robin, just 22 at the time, launched a campaign to prevent his release. Her Facebook petition gathered thousands of signatures, becoming a rallying cry for justice. Public outrage helped block Mitchell's application. By 2022, he had been denied parole 3 times. His continued manipulative behavior in prison, including aggressive outbursts and involvement in drug smuggling, only strengthened the case against his release. Lindsay's children, Robin and Jack, were raised by her family, surrounded by love, care, and the kind of stability their mother had always hoped to give them. Today, their story remains a haunting reminder that behind many closed doors, there may be someone silently pleading for help. Thanks for tuning in to Unreal True Crime. If you're intrigued by mysteries from around the world, check out our new channel, Latin Crimes, where we dive into the gripping true crime stories of Latin America. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.